All right. It's a best of 3 this time. In the bottom right, as the red Protoss, it is liquid MaNa. In the top left, as the orange Zerg, he is Elazer. Ago. Ago is scarily close to Agu. Which I will not be saying in an offline broadcast. But you bet your bottom dollar I'll definitely be saying Demyower on live broadcast. It's happening. A laser versus a laser beams. So yeah, MaNa has been doing very early pro blocks. He comes in, scouts no natural. He does see the hatchery. Wait, what happened here? Let me go back for a second. So he gets... Well, he didn't see a drone because a laser actually just... Okay, so the drone comes in. So he saw the drone. Is he just assuming there's no way the drone actually takes the forward third? He doesn't see any attempts. But Lambo did this. Didn't he? So why does MaNa throw down more structures? He checks the third. He knows. And he still decides to go, okay, so this is actually him changing things up because he wants to get aggressive. Which is very uncommon. Protoss players don't even really want to double gateway defend nowadays if they can get away with it. Because the old thing of like, well, now you have a Zealot and 2 Adepts to go across the map doesn't actually really work. It barely interrupts the Zerg most of the time, it feels like. So for him to decide to go for this is definitely because it's a forward third base, and I understand that. But otherwise, I would usually say the Zerg player defends this super easily. It's scouted pretty quickly. Overlords, you can't do anything with the Overlord scouting a natural of a Protoss. And it just, I mean, does it ever kill a queen? Usually not. Can it maybe try and get a couple drones? Sure. But is that worth the late Nexus? I think you also delay structure. Yeah, you delay your tech structure as well. Because you're going for additional production, you're going for more investment into the gas. You even don't have a second gas quite yet. So the gas you do have is more invested into the units. Like, this feels overall bad. But as a very harsh critique or something I've not seen play out yet. So I'm just going to hold off on it a little bit. I think Elazer just checked. The natural went, oh shit, wait a second. As his drones pull back. I think that was the right call. And then you're going to have to get a couple more lings to buy time. They can't really kill the Adepts too reliably without that speed. And the second queen can't come forward on such a forward third base to help out. So again, this all makes sense logically, but is it overall worth the investment? Is always going to be my question. Adepts even getting into the main base, but Elazer, I think, smartly not trying just to send his lings to their death on the third base. Like, what's the point? There's only one drone to protect. Rather keeping them in the main, where that would have been the really juicy kills if there was only a single queen to defend there. MaNa continues to make units out of the 2 gateways. A single stalker doesn't do very much. And there's a Twilight Council only just now coming down. It is a Twilight Council, though, and while this opening, I would say, is still not really worth it for MaNa, his follow-up could still do tons of damage. Elazer was forced to make an uncomfortable amount of lings, so he made 8 more than he really wanted to. Usually it's 4, and he made 12. But it's worth it to keep the Adepts at bay, and I'm pretty sure he knows exactly what's going down here and what he has to do to make this not worth MaNa's time. There's going to be a follow-up into a Dark Shrine. All right. So this is going to hit, what, like 20, 30 seconds later than a usual one? So there's like the 430 one. Because I don't think the 420 one exists anymore because of the Warp Prism nerf. There's the 430 one, and there's like a 5-minute one. There's the post-Stargate one. This is a 2-gateway opener Archon drop. So it's got to be hitting later. Roach one on the way. Laser gonna delay his lair past 4 minutes. And the more that... the more that timer raises the numbers without a lair, the more likely it is a laser will take damage from the Dark Templar. He sees another warp in of an adept. He might be thinking, like, Resonating Glaives. Oh, he's not thinking anything right now. He's just droning. Hopefully we're not going to get in the natural, see any gas timing. Certainly not getting into the main to see the Dark Shrine. Oh, a laser, my boy. All right, he gets a Spore Crawler. I think the timing of a Stargate's kind of weird, again, because of the opener, but you might assume that it's not a Stargate because it would be a really late one. But he does get a Spore Crawler or 2. He wanted to get 3, but this dastardly, rebellious drone is not making the Spore Crawler. Hello? And still no lair, by the way. And this is either him being super greedy or him thinking that it's a push that he doesn't need a lair for. But you want a lair against a DT or 2 or 4. Thankfully for a laser, this one drone, I think he realized, there we go. No, don't do it again. There we go. That did not kill him. That did not kill his third base, as the DTs didn't even try to be DTs, which is surprising, because he wasn't scouted. They just go right into Archons, which is a little bit easier for a laser to deal with. He is on pure Ling right now to defend, though. He got the Roach Roar, never made any Roaches, and that gets a little bit testier against something like the Archons, and especially if they warp in Zealots, or in this case, DTs, and that lair is under fire. There's no second Spore Crawler really available. He's going to bring it up from the main, the natural rather, to the main, and that might be enough. 5 Queens on top of things as well, but just no other units. He's going to go for a counter instead, which is a wall and a half. The lair might just go down here. In fact, it will go down. The Spore Crawler is providing that detection, but this turns sour real fast. Despite, I would say, a laser getting a bit lucky there, with the Archon drop being first and foremost. Lair does start up in the natural instead, but that's going to be a late lair, so no Overseer still. Always going to be a worry. And no Roach speed, so aggression's kind of out of the question. MaNa's going to know that it's not a lair either, so he doesn't really have to worry about like a surprise Spire or a Nidus Worm. Oh no, DT's even getting back in the main base to get another cancel. Ugh, gross. I still say MaNa's opening wasn't the best, but this DT follow-up, especially the Archon DT shenanigans, that was the real kicker there. Very annoying. Roach Worm also going to go down. Evolution Chamber eventually going to bleed out. And Archon's even grabbing some creep spread, so really just taking away any possible comeback opportunities for a laser here. MaNa is stuck on 3 bases, really focusing a lot more on his micro, so he's not able to use his minerals. I think he wants a 3rd base, but he just doesn't have anything warping in right now. He's just warping in offensively so much. So he can't grab a 3rd base, so it looks like he's mismacroing. And I would still say that he is, but he is trying to get as much damage done as possible with the DTs. The Zealot Archon foresees the Roaches without Roach speed. They're going to take an okay fight. And Elazer not even going to try anymore. He's like, F this. MaNa takes game number 1. Look at that. MaNa certainly has a different approach to PvZ. F this, exactly. Well, that kind of is that's a sucky way to end a game, no matter what happened in the first 6 minutes. But especially, I would consider him being in a comfortable position for the first 6 minutes. I don't really want to say he was super ahead or anything like that, but I think he was comfortable. To have an Archon drop turn into DTs, kill you, it just never feels very good. The hinting of 2 base adepts is pretty cool, I think. It's something that you have to consider when you see more than, 2 adepts, but I don't know if that was really what tripped up a laser, because if he was worried about Resonating Glaives adepts, why did he continue droning? I don't know if that was the thing that tripped him up. It was 100% is not having, the lair faster, which there's different reasons you would delay a lair. But also just not feeling the need to build anything. You know, he had those Lings that went for a counter instead of coming back home. But that makes sense because he was up against Archons and they would have died anyways. So he droned, built no cautious roaches, and that's totally on him. Not sure what was going through his mind because you want to try and think of the worst case scenario, right? If you don't actually 100% know what's happening, what is the worst case scenario? And for a Zerg, that's generally going to be your lack of detection. I'd have to ask him, which I probably won't be able to do. It's always weird to just go up to a person at an event and just be like, hey, remember that one game 3 weeks ago that you lost against MaNa? What was that about? Ooh. Ooh. The top left on Triton, it is MaNa. On the bottom right, it is Elazer. MaNa going for a cannon rush. That's why I had to say it really quickly. He went for a gateway into a forge, but you can still set it up and then wait for the cannons to, the forge to finish. Then you can still put your cannons. This is going to require a canceled pylon, though, and it's not the most committed cannons because it is on that low ground, and he doesn't have a second probe. And I was a little bit worried because of that, because that probe is already injured, but he escapes safely, forces Elazer to cancel that hatchery, and that is just a net gain right there, because that was a committed hatchery. It wasn't like it was just starting. Nice little opener from MaNa. How many cat puns can you do before they kick you out of IEM? Is it specified in your contract? Laughs in esports contracts? Like, I signed no contracts, so there's nothing telling me if this is okay to say or not, but I signed no contracts. Anyways. And before the business people come in and are like, how could you not? It happens a lot. So I can say as many cat puns as I want, damn it. You can also curse up a storm. I'm actually really looking forward to working with this crew. It's the first time I'm going to be working with IEM, because the time I did Pyeongchang B stream doesn't really count. But just from what I've heard from other people, it sounds like such a chiller atmosphere. I already ranted about this in an earlier stream, but even just the, that was cute. Even just the talent announcements not being the kind of boring, super duper professional standing side by side is already just something I really like. Alright, so following this little cannon rush up is going to be Twilight Council and Robo, so perhaps another Archon drop. It does give you some nice control over the game. There's definitely a few reasons to why it's phased out as the literal go-to thing. The only thing people were doing for like 4 months. But it's still a nice little build. His +1 will come eventually. There are a couple of builds on 2 bases that can try and utilize a +1 that I've seen some other people prone to cannon rushing doing. But it was more of a thing back, I think, in like Wings of Liberty, where you had to cannon because you did it defensively. It was called a Forge Fast Expand, and it was the worst. It was dumb. But you could get some pretty fast +1s. Dark Shrine it is, so once again, that Archon drop. Lair is on the way at that 4 minutes. The 4-minute mark is definitely a safe time to get a lair. I think especially because you don't have to worry so much about the quickest possible DTs with the Warp Prism nerf. And I know, like, and before people are like, it was only... How many minerals was it? Increased? 75? Anyways, it actually did affect those super sharp timings on the DT drops. I don't think you have to go for much earlier than that. But yeah, anyways, 4 minute pretty safe. Could have saved his life last game too, but also making roaches could have saved his life, I think, or given him a shot. But no roach warn at all this game. Okay, as I said, he slapped it down. It's still going to be a little late to dealing with the Archons. Lings will do fine. You just have to be very careful with them. And you want to have queens alongside those Lings to target the Warp Prism so they can't just juggle all damn day long. It's a bit riskier to do, especially if they're going to reinforce with Zealots. They actually have 7 gateways, not just 4 or 3. But if you can do it, then it's the more economical version, right? And our Zergs are pretty greedy sometimes. But MaNa, perhaps thinking last game, man, I could have just done DTs and been done with it. Goes in for DTs this time and just runs into a bunch of Lings and Overseer and those Queens. Can't even save all of his DTs. Good wrap around there. Is Elazer a Warcraft player? What was that body blocking? Who dis? Who dat? That was pretty cool. Of course, he was actually just trying to get us around. It's a little bit easier in StarCraft 2. The point is, he killed one DT, forcing MaNa to invest in yet another one. He's going to have to safely tuck his DTs in to turn into Archons. You cannot pick up morphing units. But that's a nice little spot there. Queens are already on top of the Warp Prism, though. 3 queens in the main. How many queens are we talking right now? 6 queens with 1 more on the way. Nothing but roaches being produced right now, and no evolution chamber for an upgrade. Methinks there might be an attack. The queens can aggressively push this creep spread. They're not... The Elazer could be a little bit better of this. Oh, he's going to go for the evolution chamber and out on those roaches. Sorry, evolution chambers. Sorry, gas geysers. My limit of talking has been hit today, apparently. So it's not going to be the Outline as he also starts up 6 drones. But I was like, hold on here, hold on. It's not what I thought. So, the 7 queens, that's 4 extra queens. That's a ZVT amount, not a ZVP amount. Really had me concerned, especially since casting, like, what, yesterday? Lambo versus MaNa, where Lambo did an attack like I was just setting up for, with the queens pushing the creep and a bunch of roaches. But that's not what this is. So that +1's gonna be faster for MaNa, going into charge, getting his 3rd base. Looks pretty well set up defensively. And oh, Elazer, you dirty boy. Infestation be coming down. Gonna expect that Nidus Worm. And MaNa's gonna have to show us how he deals with Swarmhost Nidus, which many Protoss will just say they can't. I remember watching this series. Perhaps it was on Chicken Man's channel. I saw him casting. Saw him leave the observers. Queen's gonna push Warp Prism away. I'm pretty sure I already explained all of that. But you don't need 4 extra queens to do that. And you don't necessarily need to lay your evolution chamber either. Nidus Worm being thrown down. As expected with Swarm Hosts, there's always 2. They're exactly like Sith. MaNa has an attack on the way, using those DTs to turn into Archons while getting a Templar Archives behind it. He has not seen the Infestation Pit. Oh, yes, he did. Oh, dang. He saw it, so he knows what to expect. But he's trying to hit before the Swarm Hosts are ready. If he forces out a Locust Wave that's ineffective, then suddenly there's just like 20 supply that's not doing anything. And the rest of Elazer's army is weak against an army like this, but actually taking damage as he runs away. There's a lot of creep spreads going to happen when you have extra queens. The Archons could try and tackle the Locusts, but yeah, he just generally wants to avoid them. Gonna move over to the right side, and now he knows the Locusts are done with. He's gonna maybe just grab this 4th base and pack it up, go home. There is a Nidus Worm offensively being placed, but the engagement's all happening right here, right now. Warp Prism comes in to try and save the day, but there still were a couple of Locusts left over, and they just ripped through them, some of that front line. Archons and Immortals are left over, and that is a damn good army against mostly roaches, but it needs some fodder. Queens have gone down now before targeting down the rest of the Warp Prism, but oh, 1 Corrosive Bile was all it took, actually. I thought that was barely going to survive, but that is pretty critical right there, because more reinforcements would have done the 4th base in. I think Elazer might have eventually held, but losing the 4th base and any Swarm Hosts as well would have been devastating. The good news is, I guess, for MaNa, he saves a couple of his Immortals, an Archon, and he does not get instantly bombarded offensively with those Locusts, so that's the good news. The bad news is he's down 70 supply, most of it in army, and now is just going to be constantly pushed anyways. So it's mostly bad news. Locust going to go right for that Templar Archives. Not going to go for the Nexus. Either one would have been a good option. Not that Storm's usually the most effective against the Locusts, but they can just grab both. Who am I kidding? Oh my god, Swarm Hosts are cool. Swarm Hosts are so cool. This 4th base is great if it's hidden, but it's not hidden. It's going to be attacked by anything, really. And looks at the engagement on the offensive. He misses the Warp Prism, but still not going to be enough. I mean, it looks that way, but 16 more roaches are on the field, and MaNa is not going to have many reinforcements. He lost his main. He's going to lose his natural. It's entirely all in right now. Bam! He doesn't lose his natural. Just kidding. Oh, that 1 Archon splash, but it doesn't matter. MaNa's been in enough games to know how this is going to go. GG. He's out of there. And we go into game number 3. MaNa versus Elazer on Ephemeron. All tied up now. In the bottom right, it is MaNa. In the top left, it is Elazer. Swarm Hostnitis, man. Swarm Hostnitis. But also that pretty sick clutch hit of the Corrosive Bile. If the Queens hadn't damaged it, a Warp Prism does take 3 Corrosive Biles to tear down completely. I honestly thought it had just enough to survive 1 Corrosive Bile. I mean, it was still fairly healthy on the hull, you know, but on the not shields, apparently not. MaNa did get a great start last game, just very quickly and easily canceling the natural of a Elazer. Yeah, the Forge and the Pylon and the Cannons do mess up your own build as a Protoss, but I would say for how swift it was, and it ended up being only dedication of 1 Pylon and 1 Cannon, I would say that was a pretty damn solid start for MaNa. But Elazer holding that push like he did was pretty critical at the time that he was trying to transition into those Swarm Hosts. I think... the Warp Prism doesn't die, or he's like 10 seconds later to the Swarm Host, or MaNa's 10 seconds sooner, or has 2 more Archons, like any of those things. And that does snowball into a MaNa victory. Not right then and there, but he kills the 4th, maybe picks up some units, goes into the main, maybe kills a couple Swarm Hosts that are trying to run around and do their thing. And it's a lot more in control for MaNa than what happened, which is losing the fight, losing the army, and then losing control of the map. So not going to try that Forge thing again. Elazer just default goes to the 3rd base, I believe, once more. MaNa really keen on blocking the natural. I just honestly want to DM him and be like, what's up with that? Some Protoss players, they do the Pylon block. They put a Pylon down, they send the probe out, and that is the timing of which they will block the hatchery. And it can work on the smallest maps, even with a 16 hatchery. I'm not sure if there's any now. There might be 1 or 2. But it's like not something that they really dedicate to. It's not something that they really are like, wow, that just ruined my game plan. So for MaNa to literally be skipping a probe in the first 20 seconds of the game for like 3 seconds, I don't know, man. It seems like a big deal. He did take advantage of the forward placement in the first game, so I'll give him that. There's certain things that can't help, but that was the weird 2-gate thing. I'm just like still not on board with it. It doesn't matter what I think, though. It matters what the results are. And yeah, that was his victory in the first game. Twilight Council, and it looks like he's going to be slapping on a Robo very soon as well. He just loves his Derek Shrine. He drops. Those... Oh, it shaded north. My bad. North. Nice. Lynn was chasing it, I believe. We're chasing a probe? Is chasing the probe? Nothing died. I don't know what it's chasing. Oh, changing things up. It is Resident Glaives. All right, then. So he did this against Lambo, and it was pretty effective. Lambo even got a full scout in the main base and saw that he had 1 guy out of each gas, but didn't seem to really see it or reflect on it or think that it meant Resident Glaives. As far as it not meaning Resident Glaives, it makes sense, because there could be other things that require less gas, like a charge of all in, or I don't know, maybe like a super quick 3rd. But you'd think that's suspicious. And Lambo was unable to defend well enough, even with maybe a little bit of suspicion growing in his mind. So what's going to happen with Elazer? Elazer's not even going to get a scout in the main base. He sees a 3rd gas being taken around 4 minutes, which might be okay with an Archon drop. And then really doesn't see anything else. And yeah, he did follow up with Dark Shrine as well in that last series. So, alright. It's going to be pretty nasty. Elazer grabbing a Roachmore and now, still no lair. If you can get like a really fast lair and really fast roach speed, they kind of help against Resident Glaives. But more importantly, you have enough units defending from the get-go so that you're already on top of the Adepts as soon as they shade first. Do a little damage, just split your units a little bit. It's a lot easier to manage than the last second surprise that it seems this will be. Elazer really doesn't have any idea what it is. He's getting that lair, he's getting a couple spore crawlers. He is currently not getting any roaches, just a handful of lings, and that is devastating. When you see the Adepts come in like they are, they're gonna have their nice upgraded shot that is now visibly apparent. A bit of a split there, 2 Adepts in the third. 3 Queens, gonna maybe tackle that, but more importantly, 6 Adepts in the main. Queen will not be able to handle that. Goes down instantly. Adepts even in the natural right now. Good target fire on the Warp Prism. If the 3 Queens were here, this could have been a mistake from MaNa, but they aren't. Adepts in the main base go into the natural, and it's just chaos every which way as the drones are no longer mining. 8 Roaches desperately on the way. Queen's desperately trying to kill Adepts. That takes a hell of a long time. And Warp Prism's still alive, which means more drones are going to go down here. Behind this, MaNa can add on DTs. He can add on Archons defensively. He can start building Immortals from the Robo as he grabs his third base. And the DTs, of course, go right for that Spore Crawler. An Overseer is being made as soon as possible, but more damage coming in. And again, they can just turn to Archons to help out. They surround a Roach, and that's actually it. GG. 2 for 2 against Zerg with that build in the exact same tournament, by the way. And Elazer and Lambo also pretty good friends that talk a lot to each other. Which is more a funny thing to add. I'm not saying that they constantly talk to each other, but... It's a coinkydink.